ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهديه الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. تيجي إن شاء الله تعالى from Sahih Bukhari رحمه الله تعالى and كتاب الإيمان. We start كتاب الإيمان after finishing of the first chapter in the book, بدء الوحي, the beginning of الوحي or the revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Before we continue, just another reminder that reading from the books of the Hadith is not something that is luxury or something extra or optional. This is something that we should take upon ourselves, that we finish the books of the Hadith, to learn it, to understand what it means, to apply it in our life. The Hadith meaning, this is what the Prophet ﷺ taught the people. Prophet ﷺ would say certain things, would do certain things. So this is what the Sahaba radiallahu anhum recorded from the Prophet ﷺ, everything in his life. So what a waste of one's life when we don't get to know the life of the Prophet ﷺ and his speech and actions. And how can we live our life if we do not know? How can we live this life? How can we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if we don't know the way of the Prophet ﷺ? How can we act and have relationships and go to places and live, basically, do anything in our life without getting to know the way of the Prophet ﷺ? That needs patience, needs time. It needs where the person would give from his time to learn, to listen to the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and then apply it. Also, one of the ways of Salaf Salih, the early generations of Islam, they used to have the gatherings of nothing but to say the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. The same way that people would have gatherings to recite the Quran, to learn how to recite the Quran, there's also circles in which people would just listen and learn the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. And this way has been neglected by many, in many places in the world, because of many reasons. So this is something that needs also to be revived. The Imam of this deen, they would sit and just say the hadith. And of course, if people do not understand, then it's to be explained. So, and there are many things that mentioned about this. And in some parts of the world, till today, you would find people, and even the Prophet ﷺ, he would talk to the people the whole day, from Fajr to Dhuhr, from Dhuhr to Asr, from Asr to Maghrib to Maghrib to Isha. And some people till today, they do that sometimes. So maybe we can do that one time, right? A weekend or something where we come the whole day. There'll be snacks inshallah in the middle. But people would just listen to the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ and get used to this, so that we can finish all of these books. This is knowledge that we need to have, and there's so much blessings in this, so much barakah. A person would find that his life is totally different if he's busy with the Quran, learning it, reciting it, trying to memorize it and acting according to it, and also being busy with the books of the hadith, learning them, reading them, being concerned, how can we learn the way of the Prophet ﷺ. You would find your life change. There's so much barakah, just blessings in reciting the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. It's enough blessings that you would say in the same majlis, how many times? Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. If this is the only benefit that a person will get, inshallah, this is a great benefit. That the name of the Prophet ﷺ is mentioned so many times, and every time his name is mentioned, alayhi salatu wassalam, the greedy one is the one that doesn't say it, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So you would say many times the salam of the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam, plus to get to learn directly from the way of the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for us to read inshallah ta'ala these hadith. Kitab al-Iman, as we said, the order, the first book, بدء الوحي, the revelation, because this is the subject. This is the whole deen of Islam is about wahy, revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then the second chapter is the most important thing, which is al-Iman, faith. And what is the proper belief in al-Iman? Because without al-Iman, without faith, what comes after that has no value whatsoever in the life of the human being unless there is Iman. The man that came to the Prophet ﷺ and they were in the midst of the battlefield, he said to the Prophet ﷺ, he was a disbeliever. He said, should I fight or should I embrace Islam first? He said, you should embrace Islam first and then. So this is how things should be in order. A person would embrace the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and correcting one's matters of belief and increasing one's iman with the good deeds. And then after that is Kitabul Ilm, the book of knowledge, because this whole subject also is about the ilm, the knowledge of the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, then the different subjects of matters of the deen. So we will try inshallah ta'ala not to spend too much time, because of course there are many things to be mentioned if we just want to give every hadith its rights, but just to be as brief as we can inshallah ta'ala. He says the first chapter in the book of Al-Iman, باب قول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بني الإسلام على خمس. The chapter of the statement of the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام that Islam has been built on five, which is the five pillars of Islam. First you would find that the chapters of this book, Kitab al-Iman, Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah, with his titles and the hadith that he brings in this chapter, stating the belief of the people of Ahl Sunnah when it comes to matters of Iman. And he states that in the first title of this chapter. So the first title in the first chapter of the book is a lengthy one. So what is the title? First he says, قول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, the statement of the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, بني الإسلام على خمس, that Islam has been built on five, meaning five pillars, the pillars of Islam that we know. And then he says, still this is the title, وهو قول وفعل. Iman is speech and action. Qawl is speech, fi'l is action. ويزيد وينقص, and it increases and decreases. So when someone is asked about what is Iman, what is faith, don't say it's what's in the heart, this is wrong, this is a deficient statement. You say as he said, this is the belief of the people of Ahl Sunnah, that the Iman qawl wa amal yazid wa yanqus. Iman speech and actions increases and decreases. We talked about that before many times, but it's very important that we memorize matters of belief. So we know how to answer, we know how to know ourselves and to teach others. As we said, speech and actions, what does it mean? It has four things within these two things. Speech is the speech of the heart, which is the belief. Right? So Iman is the belief in the heart. And the speech of the tongue. And fi'l or actions is the action done by the heart and the action done by the different parts of the body. So these are four things that comprises Iman. The belief in the heart, which is what is called qawl al-qalb, the speech of the heart, which is the belief, the six pillars of Iman and so on. And the actions done by the heart, the fear of Allah, the love of Allah and so on, this is from the Iman. And then the speech of the tongue, saying Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, reciting Quran, dhikr, enjoining good, forbidding evil, all of this from Iman. And the actions done by the different parts of the body, that means it's the whole entire life of a Muslim. It's the whole entire religion of Islam. So everything is an Iman. That's why it increases and decreases. Increases with the good deeds and decreases with the bad deeds. Al-Aqidah or matters of belief, it's part of an Iman. It's not the Iman, it's part of the Iman. As you said, it's like 1/4 according to what is mentioned. So Al-Iman qawlun wa amal, speech and actions, it increases and decreases. And everything you would find in this book, he is stating and the evidences to prove what he said. قال الله تعالى, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, this is still the title of the book, لِيَزْدَادُوا إِيمَانًا مَعَ إِيمَانِهِ, for them to increase their Iman after their Iman. So this is an evidence that Iman increases, it's not just one thing. Increases in quantity and quality. Excuse me. How is that? In quantity, as we know, increasing any good deed a person do, that increases one's Iman. Quality-wise, yes, a person might have weaker certainty in some of the matters of belief, and that increases. So you have more certainty in what he believes in, so it also increases in that way. Also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Al-Kahf, وَزِدْنَاهُمْ هُدًى, about the young men, those who were in the cave, وَزِدْنَاهُمْ هُدًى, that we increase their guidance. So guidance increases, which is an Iman. وَيَزِيدُ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ اهْتَدَوْا هُدًى, Allah increases those who guided guidance. So the more the person lived, the more he is seeking more guidance and more Iman. وَالَّذِينَ اهْتَدَوْا زَادَهُمْ هُدًى وَآتَاهُمْ تَقْوَاهُمْ, And those who were guided, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will increase their guidance and He will give them their taqwa. وَقَوْلُهُ وَيَزْدَادَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا إِيمَانًا, as it's mentioned in Surah Al-Muddathir, وَيَزْدَادَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا إِيمَانًا, that the believers, they would increase their iman. وَقَوْلُهُ جَلَّ ذِكْرُهُ فَاخْشَوْهُمْ فَزَادَهُمْ إِيمَانًا, in Surah Al-Imran, when the disbelievers, the believers were told that the disbelievers are gathering to defeat you and so on. What happened? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about the believers when they said حَسْبُنَا اللَّهُ وَنِعْمَ الْوَكِيلُ, that as a result of that, they told them, fear them, فَخْشَوْهُمْ, fear the disbelievers. فَزَادَهُمْ إِيمَانًا, this increased their iman. Increased their iman as a result of that. وَقَوْلُ تَعَالَى وَمَا زَادَهُمْ إِلَّا إِيمَانًا وَتَسْلِيمًا, and did not increase them anything but iman and tasliman and submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these are verses in the Quran that talks about the iman increasing. Then he says, وَالْحُبُّ فِي اللَّهِ وَالْبُغْضُ فِي اللَّهِ مِنَ الْإِيمَانِ. The love for the sake of Allah and the hate for the sake of Allah, this is from al-Iman. This is what the Prophet ﷺ said, أَوْثَقْ عُرَى الْإِيمَانِ. The highest or the most strongest knot of an iman is to love for the sake of Allah and to hate for the sake of Allah. That even your emotions, your feelings will be subjected to the deen of Allah, to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala likes and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't like and so on. This is clearly in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And again, when people say there's hate, religion should be away from hate. Human beings, they hate things. And that's why the deen of Islam is so comprehensive, it covers everything in your life. So if we say that as human beings there's no such a thing as hate, we're lying. You hate bad smell, you hate lying, you hate evil, you hate betrayal. Right? If somebody says, I love to be betrayed, I love those who betray others, I love killing innocent people, this person is an evil person. So, and it doesn't make sense, it's just someone that wants to lie. So hate is part of life. But those who elevated themselves with Iman, they don't hate because of race or because of color or because of these silly things that has nothing to do with the earnings and the actions of a human being. They only do everything for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They love what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala love and they hate what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hate. And this is the best people in the world, when their life is all for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then he says, وَكَتَبَ عُمَرُ بْنُ عَبْدِ الْعَزِيزِ إِلَى عَدِيِّ بْنِ عَدِيِّ. This is the first chapter, the title is a bit long because what he's saying now, the rest of the chapters of the Hadith is to prove what is mentioned here. Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, rahimahullah, he wrote to Adi ibn Adi a letter saying, إِنَّ لِلْإِيمَانِ فَرَائِضًا وَشَرَائِعًا وَحُدُودًا وَسُنَنًا. He wrote to him very comprehensive letter, very clear one, to show that this is how they believed. Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, they usually call him the fifth Khalifa, right? Because at his time there was so much justice, and he took people back to the time of Al-Khilafah al-Rashida, at the time of Abu Bakr, Umar, and Uthman, and Ali. So he wrote, إِنَّ لِلْإِيمَانِ, that for Al-Iman, fara'id. Al-Iman has fara'id, mandatory things, وَشَرَائِع, rulings, وَحُدُودًا, and limits, وَسُنَنًا. Sunanan, in that context, means recommended acts. So Iman is not just a belief, this is basically the whole deen of Islam. فَمَنْ اسْتَكْمَلَهَا اسْتَكْمَلَ الْإِيمَانِ. Whoever completed, he completes his Iman. وَمَنْ لَمْ يَسْتَكْمِلْهَا لَمْ يَسْتَكْمِلْ الْإِيمَانِ. And whoever does not complete it, he does not complete his Iman. Meaning the whole religion of Islam. He said, فَإِنْ أَعِشْ فَسَأُبَيِّنُهَا لَكُمْ. He said, if I live, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give me life, I will أُبَيِّنُهَا, bayan, right? I will make it clearer to you, I will explain it to you. حَتَّى تَعْمَلُوا بِهَا, till you act according to it. Not just to know it, but till you act according to it. وَإِنْ أَمُتْ, and if I die, فَمَا أَنَا عَلَى صُحْبَتِكُمْ بِحَيْث. And if I die, I'm not that eager to be companion or to be with you. Because if I die, this is what the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, definitely this is better for him. وقال إبراهيم صلى الله عليه وسلم. Ibrahim عليه السلام, he said, ولكن ليطمئن قلبي. As it's mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah, when he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to see how he gave life to the dead. He did not ask because he had a doubt. No, he wanted to reach that level of to see it with his own eyes. لِيَطْمَئِنَّ قَلْبِي, for my heart to be settled. Right? And definitely this is a higher level of al-Iman. When you are told there's a fruit called kiwi, right? And you're from a place that you've never seen this kiwi. And they explain it to you, it looks like this and it tastes like this. You believe it, no problem. Then you saw a picture of it. Your belief in it increased. It's a different level, different than the one that didn't see it. Although the first one, he was not denying or in doubt or anything, but it's a different level. Now he's given the thing in his hand. It's a different level, right? And then when he tastes it, it's a totally different level of what is being said in the beginning. That's the same thing for the believers when they hear about Jannah. They see Jannah, they believe in it, and they see it and they enter it and so on. So the same thing with what Ibrahim alayhi salam, he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to see how that happens. This is definitely a different level. Has nothing to do with belief or disbelief. It's just different levels of certainty. And Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiallahu anhu, when he said, "Ijlis bina nu'min sa'a." Sit, let us believe for an hour. Does that mean that they were disbelievers before? They used nu'min sa'a. Nu'min, belief, sa'a, 1 hour. What does that mean? To increase our iman. So they understood that iman is not just one fixed thing, it's to increase that iman. وقال ابن مسعود رضي الله عنه اليقين الإيمان كله. Al-yaqeen, certainty, is the whole entire iman. So iman here is explained by the word al-yaqeen. وقال ابن عمر رضي الله عنهما لا يبلغ العبد حقيقة التقوى حتى يدع ما حاك في الصدر. That the slave of Allah will not reach the reality of a taqwa unless he leaves what is itching in his chest. Not physical itching, but means what bothers him. This is halal or haram. You know the ruling, but it's still bothering him. He would reach the level of taqwa, the real level of taqwa, if he leaves it. Meaning the doubtful matters. He leave it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that his actions is always on certainty. There's no doubts whatsoever. As the Prophet ﷺ said, دَعْ مَا يَرِيبُكْ إِلَى مَا لَا يَرِيبُكْ. This is one of the easiest and happiest ways to live your life. Never live in matters of doubts. Doubts always brings problems and stresses and so on. Leave it. If there's a spacious, room for a person to live what is doubtful, he would always live in means of clarity and certainty and so on. وقال مجاهد شرع لكم من الدين أوصيناك يا محمد وإياه دينا واحدا. Explaining that شرع لكم من الدين, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the deen for you, rulings and so on. What we had ordered you, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and them the messengers of Allah, دينا واحدا, only one religion. وقال ابن عباس شرعة ومنهاجا, explaining the words in the Quran, شرعة ومنهاجا لكل جعلنا منكم شرعة ومنهاجا, for each one of you, meaning the messengers of Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made for you shir'ah, rulings, ahkam and so on, and minhaja, methodology, way, sabilan wa sunnah. The explanation of Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, that means sabilan, a path, and sunnah, and a way. He says, باب دعاؤكم إيمانكم لقوله عز وجل قل ما يعبأ بكم ربي لولا دعاؤكم. That دعاؤكم إيمانكم. In the ayah قل ما يعبأ بكم ربي لولا دعاؤكم. That if it wasn't for your dua, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't care much about you. The dua here means إيمانكم, your faith, because الدعاء هو العبادة, as the Prophet ﷺ said. So dua sometimes is defined as إيمان. ومعنى الدعاء أو معنى الدعاء في اللغة الإيمان. He says الدعاء linguistically also means الإيمان, right? So the different meanings or different words of matters of worship in the deen of Islam, you would find it used with the word of al-Iman to prove that al-Iman is not just something or one thing or the other, it's the whole entire deen of Islam. The Aqidah is part of this, the Ibadah is part of this, anything that a person do for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is part of this. Then the first hadith in the chapter, he says, حدثنا عبيد الله بن موسى قال أخبرنا حنظلة بن أبي سفيان عن عكرمة بن خالد عن ابن عمر رضي الله عنهما قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بني الإسلام على خمس شهادة أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمد رسول الله وإقام الصلاة وإيتاء الزكاة والحج وصوم رمضان. This is the only hadith in the chapter Now we all know the hadith of the 5 pillars of Islam. Bunya al-Islam ala khams. Islam has been built on 5 things. The first, shahadati an la ilaha illallah, to bear witness that there is no one worthy of worship except Allah, that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the messenger of Allah, and to establish the salah, and to give the zakat, and al-hajj, and to fast the month of Ramadan. You'll find some of these narrations, the order is sometimes changed. Hajj comes in place of Sawm Ramadan. But the interesting thing is, the chapter is al-Iman, and the hadith is al-Islam. And he meant for this hadith to be in that place like this, to show that al-Islam and al-Iman, when they are mentioned separately, they both mean the same, the other one too. So when it says Bunya al-Islam ala khams, the 5 pillars of al-Islam, this is Iman also. Because as he will bring also in the chapter hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, when he was asked about al-Iman, he gave the answer with the 5 pillars of al-Islam. So when people think, oh, the 5 pillars of al-Islam is different than the 6 pillars of al-Iman. Yes, if you mention both in the same context. There are 6 pillars of al-Iman, al-Iman billah wal yawm al-akhir, and the books and the messengers and the angels and the qadar. This is 6 pillars of al-Iman, yes. But also this is the part of al-Islam, and al-Islam is the 5 pillars of al-Iman, it's part of al-Iman. So it's as we mentioned it before, these are some of the words where if they're mentioned alone, they mean the other one too. And if they're mentioned together, each one has a separate meaning. So if al-Islam and al-Iman, both these words are mentioned in the same context, then al-Islam means the outside actions, and al-Iman is the inward actions. But if al-Iman is mentioned alone in the context, it means al-Iman and Islam and everything. If the word al-Islam is mentioned alone in the context, it means Islam and Iman and everything. Right? So this is the hadith of the 5 pillars of al-Iman, and of course the significance of Bunya al-Islam. Islam is built, right, on this. So this is like you're building something. This deen is to be built, and without these 5 pillars, there is no religion. Without one of these pillars, the building might be almost falling, and it would fall if a person loses one of these things, and especially the first 2, of course, the shahadatain and establishing the salah. This is something that is mandatory for everyone, and there is no Islam without these pillars. And then why? Because the other ones, a person might or might not be able to do it. But there is no excuse on leaving the salah whatsoever. No excuse, no exceptions, unless a person is in a coma or dead, or overslept. That means he's not conscious, he's not even responsible for his own actions. But at any instant that he's responsible, then there is salah to be established. But Ramadan, maybe he's not able to fast, zakah is poor, hajj is not able to make hajj. So without getting into the details of the pillars of Islam, because it will come inshaAllah ta'ala, the next chapter is, and we won't take too much, just this chapter, which is one hadith in it, Bab Umur al-Iman. Bab Umur al-Iman. Umur al-Iman. Umur is plural of Amr, a matter. So the matters of al-Iman. Since we agreed that al-Iman is not just a belief, so there are matters of al-Iman, which is the whole entire religion of Islam. So what are these matters of al-Iman? And to believe it like this. And again, if you just take the chapters, the titles of the chapters, you get so much knowledge by just understanding the titles. So he's stating the matters of belief here, that Iman has matters to it. And then he says in the title, وَقَوْلِ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى, bringing this ayah that is so comprehensive, which is basically covers the whole entire theme of Islam, that this is Umur al-Iman, this is the matters of Iman. لَيْسَ الْبِرَّ أَن تُوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ قِبَلَ الْمَشْرِقِ وَالْمَغْرِبِ. The birr or righteousness is not to turn your faces towards the east or the west, وَلَكِنَّ الْبِرَّ, but in reality, indeed, al-birr, righteousness, مَنْ آمَنَ بِاللَّهِ, whoever believes in Allah, وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ, and the last day, وَالْمَلَائِكَةِ, and the angels, وَالْكِتَابِ, the books, وَالنَّبِيِّينَ, the prophets, وَآتَى, these are the pillars of al-Iman, this is what righteousness is, وَآتَى الْمَالَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ, and he would give the wealth while he loves it. He gives it for the sake of Allah, and he loves his wealth, but he would give it for the sake of Allah, which is a good deed of giving the zakat. ذَوِي الْقُرْبَى, the relatives, وَالْيَتَامَى, and the orphans, وَالْمَسَاكِينَ, and the poor ones, وَابْنِ السَّبِيلِ, and the wayfarers, وَالسَّائِلِينَ, and those who ask. وَفِي الرِّقَابِ, and to free slaves. So this is another matter of al-iman, to give for the sake of Allah. وَأَقَامَ الصَّلَاةِ, this is still the ayah is going. وَأَقَامَ الصَّلَاةِ, and establish the salah. وَآتَ الزَّكَاةِ, to give the zakah. وَالْمُوفُونَ بِعَهْدِهِمْ إِذَا عَاهَدُوا, and those who fulfill their covenants when they make a covenant, when they make a promise, a covenant, a ahd, anything they would fulfill it. This is part of al-iman. This is not separated from al-iman, right? Muslims, they don't put masks on themselves. Iman is in the heart, and then their actions has nothing to do with their iman. This is a big problem when people have this deviant belief. As a result of that, it affected their actions. But if a person thinks that if he is having a contract with the worst disbeliever ever, right? But it's a contract, a business, or whatever there is, right? Part of his iman is to fulfill this covenant. Is anything that is written in it, he is responsible for it. It will affect his iman, not just something separate, and his iman will be preserved because he makes his salah, makes his dua, makes his dhikr, and he humbles himself so much, right? And he doesn't feel any means of righteousness when he's doing this contract. You feel that when you're at work, for example, you don't feel anything that affects your iman. You feel your iman is affected when you are in salah, when you're making dhikr, or reading Quran. But where is the iman? Does that affect me when I'm doing work or business or buying and selling? This is from the iman. So it has to affect it because of any problem in it, any sins in it that affects your iman. That means the whole iman will decrease. The whole iman, that means that it would affect the salah and the dhikr and the Quran. And then the person, he doesn't know why he's not able to read Quran, why he's not able to have khushu' in his salah, because his iman decreased. His iman decreased not because he had a deficiency in his salah. No, his salah is perfect and the Quran and everything. But his iman decreased because of something that he didn't even think of it. Because of this separation methods of belief, his deviation in understanding the deen of Islam. So this is from the matters of al-iman. So if people deal with this as the salah, as the different acts of worship, then things definitely will be different. So وَالْمُوفُونَ بِعَهْدِهِمْ إِذَا عَادُوا, those who fulfill their covenant when they have a covenant. وَالصَّابِرِينَ فِي الْبَأْسَاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ وَحِينَ الْبَأْسِ, those who have patience in al-ba'sa, and al-ba'sa is poverty and tough times. وَالضَّرَّاء, any means of harm like sickness, diseases, and so on. وَحِينَ الْبَأْسِ, when the times of fighting and things like that, فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, there are patience in all of these states, whether they are poor, whether they have diseases, whether they are facing their enemies, they are in state of patience. All of what is mentioned, أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ صَدَقُوا, these are the truthful ones, وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُتَّقُونَ, and these are the people of taqwa. So this is all the umur of al-iman. This is from the matters of al-iman. وَقَوْلِهِ قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ, still mentioned one verse also in the title, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. The mu'minun, the believers, they are successful. Who are they? He did not complete the verses, but the verses are clear. الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ, those who are in state of khushu' in their salah. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ, those who are, they turn away from al-lagw. And this word al-lagw is anything that is vain talk, evil, right? Anything that is lagw, that is divert the person from what is good. They turn away from it. So if a person doesn't turn away from it, then that takes away from his iman, weakens his iman, right? وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِلزَّكَاةِ, and so on. The different deeds, which is all from the umur or the matters of al-iman. Then the only hadith mentioned in this chapter, يقول حدثنا عبد الله بن محمد الجعفي قال حدثنا أبو عامر العقدي قال حدثنا سليمان بن بلال عن عبد الله بن دينار عن أبي صالح عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, that Abu Hurairah said that the Prophet ﷺ said, Al-Imanu bid'un wa sittuna shu'bah. Al-Iman, the Prophet ﷺ is saying, Al-Iman, the Iman, bid'un wa sittuna shu'bah. Bid' is something between 2 and 10. So 60 something, right? Not 61. Either 62, 63, 64, till the end of the 60 something, right? 69. So it's 60 something. Al-Iman bid'un wa sittuna shu'bah. Shu'bah, part. So Iman is 60 something parts. وَالْحَيَاءُ شُعْبَةٌ مِنَ الْإِيمَانِ, and al-haya, shyness, modesty, bashfulness, right? Shu'bah, part of al-Iman. So who's defining al-Iman here? The Prophet ﷺ. So who then after that will come and say al-Iman is what you believe in your heart? They're making up their own religion. Clear statement from the Prophet ﷺ that this is what Iman is. And this hadith also comprises the whole religion of Islam. So it's our job to get to know the shu'ab or the different parts of al-Iman. And there are books where the ulama, they wrote Shu'ab al-Iman, right? The book of Shu'ab al-Iman, the different parts of al-Iman. And they would bring up something like 60 something from the hadith and from the verses of the Quran. Some of these parts of al-Iman, if a person doesn't have it, he doesn't have the Iman to start with. Like one of the shu'ab of al-Iman, one of the parts of al-Iman is La ilaha illallah. As it's mentioned in the same hadith, different narration, أعلاها قول لا إله إلا الله. The highest level or the highest part of al-Iman is to say La ilaha illallah. If a person doesn't have it, would we say that his Iman is weak because he has the rest and he's doing all kinds of good deeds? No, he does not have Iman to start with. So this is a shu'bah, or this is a part of al-Iman that you cannot lose. It won't weaken the Iman, it will just take it away from its roots. And وَأَدْنَاهَا إِمَاطَةُ الْأَذَى عَنِ الطَّرِيقِ. The lowest part of al-Iman is to remove an obstacle from the road. This is if a person doesn't do it, his Iman is weak. It weakens his Iman. It sounds, to some, it's something, what is this? It's something simple, something easy. But it's mentioned, this is part of our deen. You see something as an obstacle on the road, bothering people on the road, you remove it, this is part of al-Iman. That increases your Iman. And if you had the means and you didn't, that decreases your Iman. But if a person didn't do it, it won't take his Iman totally, right? But it's something that would affect his Iman. And in between, many shu'ab, many parts, of course. And the more the person loses, the more that he weakens his Iman. And he might lose his whole entire Iman if he doesn't care too much about these parts of the Iman. Well, haya, to stress this, that this is something that many people, they don't consider part of the deen. Al-haya, to be shy, is shu'ba min al-Iman, is one of the parts of al-Iman. And it's one of the important parts of al-Iman because it helps you to achieve the rest of the parts. If a person is shy, he would not do evil things at least in front of people, right? And that would lead him to be also away from evil altogether. And he would be shy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is definitely more important. But someone that doesn't care and he commit evil acts openly, this is further away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than someone that has modesty and shyness. So this is a clear evidence that al-Iman, umur, there is matters of al-Iman, and this is basically parts and so on. So again, this is matter of belief. And then the details and the different things to become inshallah the teachers. We'll stop inshallah at this point. وصلى الله وسلم على محمد وصحبه.